when you said 18 months.
Yes.
And 18 months means that we have to start doing something and doing the right things now. But as we know, the elections are around the corner. Politicians are preparing for their campaigns. They're mobilizing their people, they're getting ready. Every one of them will be focusing on elections. And that could take 1 year. And then that leaves us with less than 6-7 months. And before we know it, the other elections come in. So in 18 months, we may not be doing what we need to do to sort this out.
Well, some politicians are blinded by ambition. And you can't blame a politician because politics, of course, is their life. However, in every nation we have elder statesmen. In every nation we have people whose word carry clout. And if all these people sit down and look ahead of the nation and notice and know that until the present architecture of governance and the political culture changes, there actually is no future down the road. It's stark, but this is reality. Now, if a group of persons like that emerge and the entire nation knows that these people are not religious-based, they are not political-based, these are patriots who can see ahead. I'll give you one example of the kind of persons that I think need to be called up here. Pt4 was one of the people who spoke up when Ibrahim Babangida took Nigeria into OIC with one stroke of the pen. His second in command at that time said, listen, the kind of nation that we are governing, I don't think this is right. Remember the OIC controversy? Remember he was dismissed summarily because he loved the country. Now, there are many men like that who have proven their mettle. Men who have not been moved by inducements, and they are all across this country. The truth is that somebody needs to create a synergy for people who are in the know, who are influential not only locally, but also across the globe. If they come together and they openly speak out to the president and say, wait a minute, if the foundation of a house fails, the structure is going to collapse. Now, this is diagnosis. We have this amount of time before this structure collapses. Please, we need what we call direct intervention. We need to take time as a nation to go back to our foundations, put in certain things, establish certain things. Something like corruption, definitely, there's no way Boko Haram can be defeated without us tackling corruption. And this set of people said, look here, we must give back value to human worth. There are certain things that we must do. And we want you to build a coalition. We are Africans. Nigeria is the hope of Africa. Nigeria falls, West Africa is gone. West Africa goes, the rest of Africa would not be able to stand what is coming our way. So the truth is we need wise men at this time who can see far enough to call a consensus meeting and say, look, forget your political divides for now. Because if there are no states to rule, of what use is your politics? And let me say this quickly, because people are very short-sighted in this country. A lot of people are sitting preaching in their homes right now, not understanding what we're talking about. Some used to deride us as we walked around the country, trying to help people, trying to stabilize parts of the country and all that. But let me say to you, property is going to be devalued completely. So there are people running around building houses right now. Their houses won't be worth $5,000 a few months down the road if we allow this thing to keep going. Businesses will not be able to run. Even your news house, I cannot see it running if there's no security, safety, and peace in the country. So for once, the hope of Africa, the giant of Africa, we need to sit down and realize that this is the best opportunity we have ever had, not only to restructure our nation, but also to chart a course for the destiny of Africa.
You have already said how delicate this is, because the danger that we face, is hiding under the cloak of, religion. And because of that, it has gathered sympathizers. How then do we begin to make everybody see the danger underneath this particular cloak?
You want me to bring up one thing that is a big solution that we have. Right now, because of the peculiarity of the Nigerian situation, listen to me, there are problems they have in foreign nations that we don't have here. Actually, the solution that will turn the tide, not only against Boko Haram, but it's generic across the entire world, is in Nigeria.
And what would that be?
But it's not a solution to be spoken lightly. It's not a solution that has to be spoken lightly. One, remember we have moats in high places in Nigeria. Remember that these are people who are also very influential, and if they're not flushed out of the system, and they get a wind that there's something in Nigeria that will not only neutralize it here, but it will also, sweep the rest of Africa and help all the nations of the world. I'll give you a clue. Based on research, we found out that one of the things that this generic is exploiting the most is a fault line. It's in the best democracy in the world, the United States of America, they have a very severe separation of state and religion. Now, the cracks in between that separation is what this scourge exploits the most. Now, in Africa, we are not like that. They got to that point when you study their development, and it has worked well for them up until this problem became a global problem. Fortunately for us in Africa, because of our extended family systems and because of our cultural ties and affiliations, we have certain peculiarities in Nigeria that doesn't exist in foreign nations of the world. Now, for instance, I'll give you that there's a case study we have for 1400 years. There's a case study in Nigeria of a community that radicalism has tried its best to penetrate without success. And when we study that community, we're able to draw out some basics that can be digitalized. What I mean is, these things can be modernized, expanded, amplified, and then used across the nation. If we do this, we will be exporting from Nigeria not only a local solution, but a global solution. So some of the people who are coming to help us are containing the problem in their nations. The solution that can actually neutralize it, that can fill the gaps between religion and state that was created by modern democracies, is actually available in Nigeria.
Now, Professor Wale Soyinka has been speaking. We know he's going to be 80 very soon. Maybe as part of that, an interview was conducted. I don't know if you got wind of it. I mean, did you get to see his interview? But he's saying that
snippets.
Boko Haram's activities are less likely to break us up as a country. In 2015, there had been this prediction that, we're going to split as a country, and people feel that with the current activities of this particular sect, it's looking more and more likely. But he says it's less likely. Do you agree with him?
Well, let me put it like this delicately, that Professor Wale Soyinka is a brilliant man. Professor Wale Soyinka is a Nobel laureate, but he also represents a thinking in this country that is part of the reason why we are where we are today. He's brilliant. I mean, he's a government college old boy. I also am one. And I can tell you something that the way they process thoughts, there has to be a major paradigm shift if Nigeria is going to get to the end of this thing. Professor Wale Soyinka says that based on the information he has, he's a Nobel laureate. He is a social critic. But I doubt whether anywhere within the ken of what he has in his arsenal, there is anything that can help him to really understand the intricacies, the nuances of how this hydra operates. If he knew the degree of infiltration, understood the operation of the hydra, I want to bet you he's a very intelligent man. He would have to adjust that statement.
Before we go past, how do you combine all of this work you've been doing extensively for 14 years with pastoral duties?
This is very amusing. You see, right now in Africa, take a look at all of us here. In the southern Nigeria, we all are westernized, so to speak. In the other half of the country, they are Arabized. Now, I got to the realization 14 years ago that something is coming down the road that will wipe us away. It has succeeded in many civilizations before ours. It succeeded in many nations before ours. And when I took a good look and I realized that, wait a minute, we sit down, we don't do anything about this. Ultimately, whatever your pastoral duties are a subset of what will be swallowed by this tsunami. So you find out that when you see clearly, you have understanding, and we become many things to many people. And we're able to lucidly present issues which is why for 14 years people have bothered to listen to us. I remember some time ago I spoke to a governor. He was in his lodge then, a few dispensations ago. And he said to me, he said, Ladi, you know, we were in college together and I respect you a lot. If anybody else said to me what you're talking to me about right now, there's no sign of it in the horizon, I wouldn't even listen to them. He said, because I know you very well. I will actually give thoughts to it. And some months later, the governor, ex-governor still calls me every now and then. He says to me, how on earth did you cite this thing at a time when even those of us in government had no clue that it was building up? This is where Africa is different. You know, I believe in Africa, we're also a spiritual people, and we can handle spirituality with secular life.
Well, that's why we'll have to let it go today, but we definitely will get across to you because we need to talk a lot more about what we need to do to solve these problems out. Because, I mean, you know, bad news grabs a lot of headlines, but we need to talk more about how we need to sort all of this out. Just as you said, look, whatever else we do is like a subset to all of this. So this should take center stage. Well, thank you very much indeed for coming on. Pastor Ladi Thompson has been extensive research on all of this for over 14 years. We're back after this break. Join us again.